we're less than a month away from National Signing Day on December 15th, and Clemson's looking to bring in something that they've been good at, an elite wide receiver, top 10 player at his position in Andre Green.
Yeah, Green took an official visit to Clemson this weekend. This is and coming into the weekend, I think this is a battle that's come down between Clemson and North Carolina, and heading into the weekend, I think North Carolina had a considerable lead. I think the decision was all but made. Green's camp's kind of gone quiet since the visit. Not a lot of intel coming out about that thing. So I'm not real sure how well it went. It was one that Clemson was going to have to knock out of the park to get him back, because at one time Clemson had him. He was definitely a Clemson lead. They were Clemson lean. They were the favorite. He was a big fan of how they developed wide receivers, the wide receiver U thing, all that good stuff. But North Carolina come in and have made this thing a battle, and they coming into this final weekend, they were actually winning it. And I'm not real sure how this one's going to shake out just yet. He announces tomorrow at 6:15. I have not even put in a projection on him yet, because I'm still not sure which way he's going to go. I got some people telling me they think it went pretty well, but those are not some of my better sources. But just not a lot of news coming out here. Like I said, his camp's kind of gone radio quiet since the visit. And that might be a good thing for Clemson. I don't know. You just can never tell in recruiting these days.
Well, nothing against DJ Uiagalelei, but maybe somebody on the Clemson side should remind him that he's not going to be throwing the ball to Andre Green, and also Sam Howell's not going to be throwing the ball to him if he chooses one of those particular sides.
Well, his roommate this weekend, not his roommate, but right beside him this weekend, his neighbor was none other than Cade Klubnik. So I'm sure he, the number one quarterback in the country, committed to Clemson. Sure he reminded him of that.
Okay. Yeah, we're talking about a pretty elite player here out of, as you mentioned, St. Christopher's School in Richmond. Number 9 wide receiver in the country, according to the 247 Sports Composite. Number 71 national player, third-rated player in the state of Virginia at 6'3", 185. And yeah, he's got, I don't think I ever have seen that number, 58 offers.
Oh, yeah, they all
like 25 or 30.
Yeah, he's got right at 60, but I think this guy might have the best hands in the class. Everybody wants him. He's that good. Clemson wants to sign one more receiver, and we got a guy right here in state at Dutch Fork, Antonio Williams. More of a little bit smaller, shiftier guy. I think he's 6'1". Compared to Green, who's 6'3", longer receiver. Like Clemson's got a lot of those guys. And there's a lot of people around here upset that Williams hasn't gotten that offer yet, because he's one of the best players in the state. I think he's one of the best receivers in the country. I went and watched him last Friday night. He's every bit as good as advertised. And depending on how this thing shakes out, he might end up sitting here without an offer. But I think that if Clemson does miss on Green, I think they'll see that offer to Williams go out pretty quick.
Jason, I would think the two position players that would be the most concerned about who else is being recruited, signed, and who else is on the roster already would be the quarterback and the wide receiver, because the wide receiver can be great, but if nobody can get the ball to him, then he's useless. He's the most dependent player on the field on either side of the ball. He's completely dependent on the quarterback, who's obviously dependent to a large extent on the offensive line. And so if I'm a wide receiver, I want to know what's the quarterback play there at that school. And if I'm a quarterback, I want to know, even more so than the wide receivers, I want to look at their offensive line recruiting. I don't want to get killed.
I know I've harped on Clemson's offensive line all season long because it's been bad. Make no mistake. I think Clemson's feeling the effects from some poor decisions in roster management from a few years ago. They signed only 5 offensive linemen over 2 consecutive classes. I mean, that's just not a big number. And it's left them with a room full of underclassmen right now, first and second year guys. And I think there were 3 upperclassmen offensive linemen on the whole team. Clemson runs a fairly complex zone blocking scheme. It takes guys time to learn. Sometimes they don't get, really acclimated to it until well into their second season. Some guys learn it faster than that, obviously, but and people are getting frustrated because the last 3 classes, Clemson's recruited well along the offensive line, just one blue chip guy after another, but we haven't started to see the results on the field yet. I think that's going to start to happen next year. And if we go another year and we're still seeing the same thing along the offensive line, and then you got to start questioning the development of some of these guys, man, because there will be no other reason why this offensive line isn't better next year outside of them not being developed properly. Because you got the number 1 center in the country who will be a sophomore next season. He's redshirted this year. I think he played a couple snaps against UConn the other day. I think his first game he's played in all season. And you got 5-star Tristan Lee at one of the tackle spots. You know, he's redshirting this season. And then you got a freshman, Marcus Tate, who's a blue chip guy. He's played a lot this year. And, you know, he struggled in his first year picking up this scheme that Clemson runs. But, you know, he's took his lumps this year, but, he should be better next year. And if he's not, we got to question why. And there's a lot of guys right there with Marcus Tate, the freshman that's played this year. You know, Mitchell Mays is in his second year. He's a guy that, you know, hasn't come along as fast as some thought. Bren Tucker's another guy. But, you know, there's a few guys on this team that I think can help along the offensive line next year that weren't quite ready this year. Guys like the center I mentioned, Ryan Linthicum. You got a freshman, Dietrich Pennington, who was injured and has missed all season. You know, he's a big guy. He wasn't as highly rated as some of the other 4-star guys, but I think his ceiling is just as high or maybe higher than a lot of those guys. And Clemson's got 2 fantastic freshmen coming in, you know, Colin Sadler, Blake Miller. You see Blake Miller on the sideline some of these games. He looks like he could play Power 5 football today. I mean, he's just that big. And I think the future of the offensive line is bright. I mean, there's a lot of talent in that room. It's just not been quite ready to play yet. You know, you still had guys like Matt Bockhorst and Jordan McFadden and Hunter Rayburn, you know, the upperclassmen guys who are very experienced, know the system. They just haven't been beat out yet by these guys who are a little more inexperienced. And those guys will be moved on next year for the most part, except for Rayburn. And we're going to get an influx of talent along that line next year.